Hello, we are live on. I'm not supposed to say live on the radio. Some reason, I guess it's taboo or something. But I'm Heston Cherry, and this is the show, Addiction Recovery, Hope and Resources. And we try to give a little bit of hope every week, and to someone out there who's needing either a parent, an addict, or anyone that's searching for direction and someone they love. Everyone knows someone that struggles with addiction. I tell you what, right, Jerry?
That's correct.
My buddy Jerry Campbell is my guest today, and I'm so stoked to introduce him and get to know him a little bit better. We're going to talk about belief, and it's going to be a cool show. So tune in, and right now I'm going to turn the time over to Jerry, and I'll butt in every now and again.
Well, hello.
Hello.
I've done a lot of work on myself in the last 8 years or so. And by doing that work, I found out my story began when I was 5 years old. I was transitioning from kindergarten into first grade. And like a week or two before I was going to go to first grade, my parents sat me down in the living room and told me that I was going to be held back. And I didn't understand. I was confused, a little lost. And but I remember the first day of school, and I was watching my best friend go to first grade without me. And that's probably the first time I felt feelings of abandonment. Where do I belong? I'm stupid.
Yeah.
So that's where my story started. And then as things in age and time progressed, I felt like I was an alien dropped on planet Earth, like always seeking what was wrong. You know, what's wrong with me? I don't feel a part of normal society and people. And so I started addictive behavior at a young age without a drug or a drink. And then things happened to me. I was physically abused. I used to seek love. I felt like my voice was never heard. I'm the youngest in the family. So I was always acting out like inappropriately to get my attention. But I always wanted love, and I wanted nurturing, and I didn't know, I felt like it didn't come from my parents, my mom. So I used to, like, I would beat my dog and then go on the other side of the room and see if he would come to me when I called him, see if he would love me, just things like that. And then by the age of 12 is when I found my first drug. And it went downhill real quick from there. But it was fun. You know, using drugs and alcohol was fun in the beginning.
I love that you say that because everyone's like, oh, it's not fun. That's the problem. Is usually the first few times is you have fun. And that's why people say, tell your kids, don't use drugs, just say no. You got to tell them why and what's going to happen. You're going to have fun. And then all of a sudden it's not going to be a choice anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
So the keggers were fun, you know, and smoking the joint on the weekend was fun. But something happened to me when I hit high school. I was always like active in sports. I always had a girlfriend, always obnoxious, you know, that attention seeking. But something happened when I opened up the doors to high school. When I opened up the doors, I saw like the groups of theater kids, the LDS kids, the jocks, and something happened as soon as I literally can like open the door that first day in high school, and I like, where do I belong?
Yeah.
Totally scared, totally insecure, didn't know, and I like was raised around these people.
Yeah.
But it got bigger there was, the groups were bigger. So I don't know, just a switch went off. And somehow I found the back parking lot in Brighton High up in Salt Lake, and I found like heavy metal and a hacky sack and marijuana.
You found acceptance.
Yep. And that's where I felt like I fit in. So things still really started to roll after that. And then when I was 16, I was given a line of cocaine for my birthday, and then that's probably the beginning of not having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw my friend like OD on my front porch, foaming at the mouth. My other friends holding me back so I wouldn't go make the phone call to get him help. I had another friend where his aorta burst while he was driving down State Street in Salt Lake. But those things never stopped. It didn't stop me.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And that's what's crazy. I don't know where I'm going to go from here, but I eventually got married. I didn't stop using from age 12. I was using something, and when I got married, it was usually a substance where you couldn't smell it or taste it. It was maybe in a pill form or something I could snort. But I remember, man, like it was getting bad. It was getting really bad, and I wasn't. It was an unhealthy, toxic relationship. But we had these 4 beautiful kids. But I remember like having my 4 kids and driving past Pioneer Park in downtown Salt Lake, loaded with my kids in the car, looking over at the side, looking at Pioneer Park, and like, I'm not an addict because I'm not over there.
Yeah, exactly. When you start to compare yourself to other people, I'm not an addict because they use heroin. I would never do that. Or they drink on weekdays. I would never do that. But that's where when I tell people that, until you look at yourself and your problem, and only your problem and what you're doing, is when you'll find that you can accept that your life is unmanageable where you're at.
Yeah, I always like the stigma of the addict, like the guy or girl with the needle in their arm underneath the underpass of the freeway. That was in my mind, and I was never there, so I'm not an addict.
Yeah, but I did this for years, decades.
Just the things I would tell myself to justify what I was doing. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But we eventually split up, and I moved down to Phoenix. I like to say I left my 4 kids with their grandma for a bag of dope and a girl in Phoenix. And it's pretty much what I did. I still see my oldest son in the rearview mirror as I drove away. It was pretty...
we hurt our families.
Yeah.
And at the time, we're thinking, I'm only hurting myself, so they shouldn't feel bad, and I'm leaving them in good hands, so they shouldn't be sad.
Yeah. And those relationships are still in progress today.
Yeah.
It's just,
but there's hope.
There is
They're
hope.
getting better.
Not in my time.
Yeah, not a good point. I like that.
Yeah. So things got really bad when I drove away that night. I like to say I have 2 bottoms. The first bottom, I was a delivery driver in Phoenix, and I wrecked my work truck, and the company I worked for threw me in rehab. And what I told myself is I'm going to do what they want me to do. I'm going to say what they want me to say so I can get out of here and go back to my beautiful life. And my beautiful life at that point was a green Walmart mountain bike and a backpack and no place to live. That was my beautiful life.
Yeah.
So anyway, something happened when I got into rehab, and something happened the 3rd night when the counselor was explaining how an addict can substitute one drug for another. And a light bulb went off. That seeking that I was looking for since age 5 stopped. I finally found out what was wrong with me. I finally accepted that I had a problem with drugs. So then it became fear. Like I was like wanted to be there. And so after the 30 days was up, it's like fear. I did not want to leave rehab. And I loved my counselor because she did what I did and probably more of it, so I could really relate with her.
Yeah.
So I asked her, can I stay? So she let me stay an extra 18 days, but I, I asked her, what do I do now? What do I do when I leave these doors? And she kind of directed me into a way of recovery. And that's what I did, man, when I left. She told me to go to these certain places, and I remember, like, when I got out of rehab, I'm rolling up on my green Walmart mountain bike, and everybody else is rolling up on Harleys and crisp, clean cars.
Yeah.
And that feeling of like, oh, no, I don't belong here anymore, So those feelings were there, but somehow I had the courage and power to walk into this building, and there were a bunch of addicts hanging out, and one of them was up at the pulpit talking. And I listened to him. I sat in the back, like we all do when we're new.
Yeah.
But I loved what he said. What really caught my attention was that this guy was being vulnerable, and he was expressing how he felt and where he was. I mean, this guy was successful, and he was talking publicly about how he found a bottom, I thought it was really, really cool and admirable. And I walked up to him and I just thanked him. No one told me to do these things. I just walked up and said thanks. And he directed me to some help and told me what to do and gave me some guidance. And one of his buddies says, I'm going to come pick you up next Saturday. So he rolls up to where I was staying. It was pretty much a closet.
Yeah.
And he had 2 jet skis behind his truck. And so I hop up in his truck, and he looks at me, and he's like, are you ready for God? And I was like, oh, no. And literally what was in my mind was orange robes and tambourines and jumping around a bonfire because we were going to go to this lake. That was what's going on through my mind.
We can create some crazy thoughts, can't we?
If you could see my mind on a daily basis, you'd be entertained forever,
I'm
probably. So we go to this gas station to fill up the jet skis, and we fill up the jet skis, and then he pulls up to the front of the store and goes in to get some drinks. And there's this guy standing in front of the truck, and my buddy that is taking me to the lake comes out, and he had an ashtray full of change. And he grabs all of it, and he gives it to this guy standing in front of the truck. And then he comes back in, and I'm like, why'd you do that? He's like, well, maybe if I give him this money, he won't rob anyone tonight. So maybe that was my first experience of God,
Yeah.
And then we went to the lake, and he had a little hibachi grill, pulled it out on the bed of his truck, and cooked up hot dogs and hamburgers, and we went jet skiing. And when we were done on the way home, he goes, so what'd you think of God? And I thought it was the coolest thing ever because I've never done anything like that clean.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
It is to do anything for the first time. Anything is, like you say, is a God. It's the most freeing feeling that you'll ever experience. And then you want to do more firsts.
Yeah. So I think why you asked me what I wanted to talk about belief. When I was on the snowbird ski team in Salt Lake. Probably 5 years I was on the ski team. I feel like the red carpet was rolled out in front of me to be on the U of U ski team and possibly the U.S. ski team. But I remember it was the 5th year I'm in like the basement of my parents' home, and my dad coming down the stairs and asking me, do you want to party or do you want to be on the ski team? And I looked at him straight in the eye like I'm looking at you right now. And I said, I want to party.
Yeah.
So I say belief because that day I didn't believe I was capable of anything.
Right.
I had no belief anymore.
Or any hope.
I didn't think anything was possible. Going to school, having a kid, being a father, having a driver's license, having running water for your toothbrush was not possible. I didn't think getting clean was possible.
Yeah. Sounds like also you had fear of success, and I think that a lot of times is you had the talent, but what was the easier answer? I'm just going to party because I don't want to be accountable for what I say. If I say I want to succeed and go follow my dreams, then where am I? I got to go do it. Instead, we sometimes as addicts we fear and allow fear to take over, and we just go with the lesser of the two.
Yeah, for sure. And in my mind, I thought I had to follow my father's footsteps. You know, I thought I had to go to the U and get the degree and become a successful businessman like him and be as wise and as smart. And I literally failed at every attempt. But through the course of the work that I've done on myself, I realized that wasn't my father. I put that own expectation on myself. And I didn't know that at that time, but I do today. So I never really had a close bonded relationship with my father because of that. So after Phoenix, I got clean for a little while, 15 months or so, and I got sick with pneumonia, and I knew what would make me feel better. And at that point, I stopped doing what I normally do. So I believe relapse happens long before you actually pick something up.
I believe that, and it starts with the behaviors.
Yeah.
And if you can catch it and you have the tools to do so, earlier the better.
Yeah. It got ugly. Like 9/11 is a significant day just for our country, but for me as well. It was a weird, surreal day down in Phoenix. There's usually always planes, helicopters, busyness. But that day, it just like life stopped.
Shut down.
Yeah, it was really
Everyone
really
was watching
weird.
TVs, I remember.
Yeah, I came home from work and I had this note on my front door telling me that I couldn't live there anymore. And thank goodness my buddy who took me home, because at that point, no, I still had my car. But anyway, the sticker was on the front door. He stayed. He didn't just drop me off and leave, so that was cool. So we packed up a few items and I went down to get in my car. My car was repoed. So I lost my place to live. I lost my
It rains, it pours.
right on 9/11. It was really weird. I was going through my divorce. My oldest kid is my daughter. She was on the stand at that day with the mediator up in Salt Lake. I'm in Phoenix. And she accused me of physically abusing her. And I was panicking. Like, it was a weird day. And I wanted so desperately to go to Salt Lake and like defend myself.
Yeah.
And, anyway, she was persuaded or whatever to say what she needed to say. It was a horrible day. And it was just a horrible time in my life. But it took me years to get back to what I knew what would help me be clean. And somehow I made it up here to St. George. And I remember my parents lived here. They've lived here for a while. We had a condo or another home. Are we good on time?
We got 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Run with it, Jerry. Jerry, you've got me encapsulated in your story. So go.
I remember my dad lived here, so I remember the first time I went over to his home, and he had a job set up for me through the city. So I had the UA and all of that, and I kept putting it off. And finally, I just got, I'm not clean. I went over to his home and I told him, I'm like, Dad, I can't do this. He had a good name with the city council, and I'm like, I can't do this, Dad. I don't even want to put you. He's like, give me the house keys. And I thank him to this day.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
After years until you've made it in recovery, it's the best day of your life. You realize, because that's when you could start.
Yeah. And when I was in Phoenix, he tells me that my older sister wanted to go down and buy me a car and get me off the streets, and he told her no, let him stand on his own. I thank him to this day for that. Anyway, things like continued downhill when I moved up here, and I'll get to the part where my wife really wanted me to share because I only have a couple minutes, but
5 minutes, you've got it.
my dad lives in a 55 and older community, and I robbed a couple homes of his friends there. But this particular day, I robbed his best friend's home. I thought they were gone. I ran out of what I was using, and I went through their garage door, and I went into the kitchen and around the corner, and there was his wife. And something happened when I looked at her. I saw the look on her face. And I immediately did a 180, went back out the same way I came in. And I stood on their front lawn, and somehow I felt like I pulled out an imaginary white flag. I'm like, who am I? Who am I becoming? And I can't do this anymore. So I went around the corner. I went back to my dad's house, and my mom is sitting at the counter. And I told her, I'm like, I've been robbing your friends' homes. I've been robbing your safe for the last year. If you want to ground me, spank me, or yell at me, I'll be in the guest room, because I knew I was going to go into withdrawals.
Yeah.
At that point, it wasn't about getting high. I literally had to take something to brush my teeth.
Yep.
Yeah, it was that bad.
And being dope sick is the worst place you could possibly be, and that's that's why we go to these lengths of stealing and all the symptoms of addiction is that we don't want to do with that pain.
No.
It's the worst. You're dead. You're in your brain. You're going to be dead.
Yeah, the biggest fear of being sick was just unsurmountable.
Yeah.
But somehow I surrendered. I told her, this was like 4 p.m. I told her by midnight, I'm probably going to be in full withdrawals. So I'm just going to hang out in the guest room.
Yeah.
But something happened, man, around 9 p.m. that night. I went somewhere like spiritually that I never, ever want to go back to. And I forgot about recovery. I forgot everything. But I only knew one way out, and that was to take my own life. Yeah. My parents are older. They usually go to bed early. So I told myself around midnight, I'm going to go to the kitchen and get a knife and go into the bathtub so my mom doesn't have to clean anything up, and take myself out. So midnight rolled around, dark, all the lights were off, and I go in the kitchen. I actually followed through with what I was planning. And I grabbed a knife and I started to walk down the hall towards the bathroom, and out of the corner of my eye, my dad's awake and he's like standing in front of me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't see a way out, Pop. I gotta go. And he took the knife from my hand. It was a Friday, and he stayed with me in the guest room until Monday and got me help. So, but I never want to forget that night. The smell of my skin started in my left palm, and it just started seeping, this ugly smell. And I could just feel it going up my arm and through my body, but I will never, ever forget that smell. So when there's days where I want to use, I can always remember that night and that smell. Yeah,
that sounds like one thing I call a healthy fear, remembering where you never want to be ever again. And sometimes that's what gets you through the bad days.
Yeah.
Tell me where you are now, Jerry. You've got 1 minute, 40 seconds, and tell me what bring a little bit of hope to someone. You've got a beautiful wife. She was on my show last week.
So I wanted belief, right?
Yeah.
And now I don't have enough time to get there.
I know. We'll have you back on.
So my belief today is that anything is possible. And I remember when I first heard that, when I got into recovery, I didn't believe whoever was saying it. I'm like, you're full of crap.
Yeah. You don't understand me. I'm alone.
Yeah. But I'm finding out, because we have a beautiful boy with autism that just is like giving me a whole new perspective on life. And I'm seeing like the kind of father I can be, and how much love I can hold in my heart is incredible. And how much love I have for her. I didn't think these things were possible. I was this guy on a green mountain bike with no hope.
It was for everyone else, but not me.
Yeah, there was no way. And for years, I've been trying to get a college degree to follow my father's footsteps, right? And I did that this past October. I got a bachelor's degree. And my spiritual guide would always tell me, just show up. Just show up to your computer. That's all you need to do. And that's what I did. And I got a degree. And then, like, the horizon got bigger and brighter. I'm like, maybe I can be a therapist.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get a PhD, and that's where I'm at today.
How long are you going to be till it's all done?
4 more years.
Attaboy. Stick with it. I want to hear more about it. We'll have you back on.
Sorry, not enough time.
No, we'll get back to it. I appreciate you coming on. What a joy and to hear your story and to meet you, Jerry. Good people.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys next Monday.